Welcome everybody to another episode of Geek Dad Reviews. Tonight on the show, we are going to be reviewing the self-proclaimed second biggest movie of the summer. That's right, we're going to be talking about the Merc with the Mouse second adventure, Deadpool 2. I'm Brian West, the host of With Moses, and tonight I am joined with a very special guest, Xopher Reed from the Utah Outcast.
Hey guys, how's it going? Thanks for having me on again.
Of course.
Guys, it's you. It's not. I mean, where's Ryan?
There's no. Well, Ryan,
we all
as
know
everybody who watches our
yet,
show
right?
knows, does not go to see summer blockbusters. He likes to wait till they're firmly on Netflix before he views them. So he has given his loving permission for fellow Geek Dad and friend of the show, Chris here, to slide into his comfy chair in the Batcave over there and fill in for him.
If you only knew, this chair is the least amount of comfortable as it possibly could ever be, you know?
You know what? So's mine. I think that's just something we do so that we stay alert while we're doing the show.
Well, yeah, you don't get comfortable, you know?
You don't want to get too comfy because then you start falling asleep. Because little known fact, anybody who doesn't podcast, most of the time we're doing these late at night.
Mm-hmm. Right now,
so anyway, this is going to be a full spoiler. So if I had cool lights, it'd be flashing right now. So if you have not seen Deadpool, do not watch this unless you want every little detail ruined, because we are going to go deep dive, much like the movie, into all the fun, the crazy, and the insanity that is Deadpool 2. So you have been warned.
Yeah, we're getting all in those guts tonight. So
yes, this guy. And if you don't know who Deadpool is, it's this beautiful little man right here,
Wade Wilson. You know, the Marvel ripoff of Slade Wilson
and Spider-Man, believe it or not. So I figured, much like the movie opens with a little dead Wolverine on a tree stump, we should open with a little Wade
and it was
Wilson
playing
with
the song
sword
from the movie
face.
too.
Okay, let's just dive right into this movie. I don't know if we need to talk about what the movie's about, because frankly, I watched it and I'm still not quite sure what the movie was about.
Well, just like the other Deadpool movie, it's a love story. I mean, ultimately, but this time, instead of just being the love for Vanessa, though don't get it wrong, that's a huge part of it. It's the love. He tries to spread his love elsewhere, and horrible shit happens because he doesn't know how to human. That's the problem.
I guess you could say this movie's about a journey of a superhero through his various stages of grief.
Yeah, definitely, because there's just a point where he kind of gave up in the movie.
Yeah, kind of. He sat on a giant, I don't know, what was that, like gasoline? What do you call it? High-grade gasoline?
It said kerosene on the bottle itself, but I don't. Who knows what the fuck was in those fucking drums of things? It just.
Yeah,
and he turned on all of the gas in the apartment. And
I do not condone suicide. I mean, if that's what you want to do, hey, more power to you. It's not my thing, but
yeah, just don't take out the whole building when you're doing it.
But
that's a dick
oh my
move.
God, that might be the most epic suicide scene I've ever seen in a movie. He went out like a crazy motherfucker, man. He was just like, I'm taking everybody with me. Here we go.
So it always brings up the question, since he has such high healing powers, what part would
what can he actually withstand?
Yeah, I mean, could you turn him into a smear on something and he'd eventually bring himself back together? I mean, we've seen Wolverine in the comics get blown to all sorts of fucking bits and he somehow comes back.
Yeah, and Wade Wilson's always his healing factor has always kind of been a little bit less. It's been known that it's a little bit less than Wolverine's, but I think they really put that to the test in this movie, because I mean, he got blown up or ripped in half no less than 3 times.
The only reason that his healing factor is lower is because of all the fucking cancer. I mean, he is a stage 4 cancer patient that just somehow unlocked the mutant power.
If you ever wondered why his face looks like an avocado got fucked by an uglier, older avocado, that's why.
Man. You know, T.J. Miller. Not T.J. Miller. Was that the writer? Not the writer. I'm thinking of the guy that played Weasel. What's his name?
Yeah, T.J. Miller.
T.J. Miller, yeah. He's one of my favorite characters in the whole fucking movie. He stole just about every scene that he was in, because he
did in the first one too.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's really funny.
However,
I kind of felt like they cut some of his scenes in this. I felt like he was more in this movie. He was supposed to be more, but some of the stuff going on in real life, they were like, maybe a little less Weasel. He's already been written out of X-Force, and the next sequel there said he won't be coming back.
And we'll get to X-Force in a minute. Good God.
All right,
but we were talking about, okay, so he commits suicide right at the beginning because he doesn't feel that life's worth living, and he wants to make his way to Vanessa. Because
well, here, let's start at the beginning. We kind of jumped in this thing all over the place here. So the movie starts off with Wade Wilson. Everything's groovy, great. He's just being, he's kind of, I don't know, being like a superhero. He's trying to live up to the superhero mantra where he's taking out bad guys all over the world. There's a great Dolly Parton theme song, Working 9 to 5. There's a great monologue where bad guy's running away, or not a monologue, but a scene where a guy's running away, and in the background, Deadpool's just murking people, and he ends up getting a chainsaw, and he's chainsawing people, and he's hitting people in the heads with bricks, and it is one of the funniest, most violent scenes I think I've seen in a superhero movie, and they really upped the violence. Side note, in this one, did you know how much gorier this was than the first one?
Yeah, this one was a lot more violent, but at the same time, like, not nearly as edgy, because the first one, like, there was a lot more, like, nudity and, like, dick stuff going on in it, and this one just kind of had like a couple of those things where you don't get to joke about International Women's Day, even though he said let's fire up the butt plug and let's make a super baby or something like that. And so
I like it. She's like, I don't think that's how that works, but hey, sure, whatever, let's give it a try. This one was directed, so the biggest notable absence from the last Deadpool movie is director Tim Miller, and apparently Ryan Reynolds rumored had a falling out, and he left to do something else. And they brought in David Leitch, one of the half duo who did John Wick, and he also directed Atomic Blonde. And I think you really notice his presence in this with the action sequences and maybe possibly the violence, because that's kind of more his trademark, and it feels different from the first Deadpool movie in that aspect.
The man who killed John Wick's dog.
That was great. Yeah. If you don't know if you missed that little spoiler, well, not spoiler, if you missed that little Easter egg X is talking about in the credits when it's showing, first of all, that was a great Bond montage.
The great Bond opening.
And so it says directed by the guy who killed John Wick's dog. Yeah, that was pretty good. So anyway, yeah. So Wade Wilson's doing his thing, and unfortunately, when you take on really bad people, sometimes your business follows you home. And the main plot point of this movie happens even before the credits roll, or the opening credits roll. Vanessa, spoiler alert, dies. And kicks everything into motion in this movie. Yeah.
And we'll come back to that point probably 3 other times this movie where...
Yeah, this kicks off the weird theme of this movie that we were talking about before we started recording, is a little bit of a lazy writing when it came to some of the plot points in this movie, and even some of the character development of certain characters. So we'll talk more about that as we go. But alas, Wade Wilson, fast forward to the suicide, the attempted suicide that he does not follow through with, and then is, rescued by Colossus for some self-help, and becomes an X-Men, a temporary
trainee
X-Men. I love the fact that they gave him that hilarious junior varsity jersey that says trainee.
Shitty jersey doesn't even fit.
Doesn't fit. He shows up for their first mission like he's in charge, and nobody gives him any respect.
Well, in typical Wade fashion, he just wastes the fucking pedophile guy that's right there on the spot.
That was something I actually really appreciated, and the thing that I love about Deadpool as the character is, they go to save this kid who's blowing shit up, and Colossus is like, okay, you're an X-Men in training, Wade, because, Wade feels like if he becomes an X-Men, he can do something, and it gets his mind off his dead love of his life. And so he's doing this, and he's trying to save this kid. He's trying to do it Colossus's way, because Colossus got this rule book and all these things he can't do, and one of them is he can't kill people. And he's talking to this kid, and the kid kind of hints that, he says he's been abused, and he definitely hints that, it might have been some kind of a sexual abuse. And Wade Wilson just doesn't even hesitate, pulls out his gun and just starts waxing fools, right? Just starts killing them to the point where Colossus has to intervene, and now this kid and Ryan Reynolds are shipped off to a prison.
Speaking of the prison, there's a funny little Easter egg in that one. We're going to pepper this throughout with little Easter eggs where Deadpool's writing the plans to find the certain prisoner, the pyromancer kid. What's his name? Flamefist? Doom? I don't know what the fuck his name was. He's an obscure villain in the X-Men universe that I barely could remember. I don't know what the fuck his name is. Anyway, there's a part where Wade's doing the whole working with X-Force to get the plans where they're going to rescue the prisoners and everything. His prisoner number was 24601. Prisoner 24601, which just happens to be the inmate number reserved for Jean Valjean from Les Miserables, which was played by
Hugh Jackman.
Hugh Jackman.
There's a lot of good Hugh Jackman stuff in this, and you know, I really would be disappointed if they do a Deadpool 3. You know, we don't know what's going to happen with after this Fox and Disney merger, but if they do a Deadpool 3 and we do not get a Wolverine Deadpool team up, I'm just going to be really disappointed. I mean, I'm just really going to be disappointed.
Well, I feel like we need to tell people that as far as like we need to lay it on the table for them that this is a fun movie.
Yeah,
it's a good watch. It's got great action in it. However, it's not without its problems.
No,
so
it is not.
This is the Doctor Strange of the Deadpool series so far.
I don't know about Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange is pretty
definitely
weak.
not quite as slow, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, this would be more. I would say this is more of a. I don't want to give it the doomed Iron Man 3 because we talk so much shit about it, but in a lot of ways it's kind of like Iron Man 3. It's a fun movie, but it just doesn't feel right. Like, I don't know. It just doesn't. We'll get into you know what?
I was like 2 clicks away from buying Iron Man 3 the other day, and then I started thinking about it, and I'm like, I remember the bad guy that belches fire at the person, and I'm just no.
You know what? Fuck it. I'm doubling down. This is the Iron Man 3 of Deadpool universe, right? A lot right, a lot wrong, but we're going to talk all about that. So
where it hits good, it's amazing, but where it's lazy and you know just kind of bloated, it's like. Enough with the fucking dead horse, guys. Come on, let's not go back to that well. Like, I know in comedy there's that rule of threes where you know you keep it at that level, but you don't keep going back to it. Otherwise, it becomes fucking parody. And this movie almost becomes a self-parody of itself.
And that, you know, and that is that is kind of my biggest problem with this movie. And I don't want to shit all over this review because I did enjoy this movie a lot. You know, so. I'm gonna recommend everyone see this movie, so you don't have to wait till the end. It's worth watching. It's fun. You're gonna have a good time, but it has some big fucking problems. And as almost perfect as the original Deadpool was, I had high expectations for this movie, and it did not live up to them. I'm not gonna say in any shape or form because there was a lot to really enjoy about this. But to your point, this movie is 3 movies kind of in one. It wants to be the first Deadpool, which is great. And when it does do some of that stuff, it works really well. Sometimes it's repetitive, and it doesn't work. It also wants to be a John Wick-inspired X-Men movie, right? Like a Fox X-Men movie. And that's not praising it, right? I mean, that's saying like, hey, we're going to bring in all this convoluted history that's all over the place that nobody understands. We're going to give you characters where we've tweaked their powers or their backstories to the point that really just irritates you. And then also to your point,
Cable is so fucking nerfed in this. I don't understand.
We're going to talk about Cable in a second. But then the third part, it gets almost too like Deadpool worked because it was funny. It broke the fourth wall, but not too much. But most of the funny jokes worked within that universe. This goes to the point where it's almost a parody of itself and all comic movies in general. It almost becomes like Airplane level slapstick at times of how goofy it becomes, which, you know, Deadpool can do that and it still works, but tonally, this movie was just all over the place.
He talked to the audience a lot in this one, which was kept to a minimum in the first one. It wasn't like, it was the nice moments where we got that fourth wall break and stuff, but in this one, it was just like, they kept going back to it, and he kept stopping things and turning to the camera and, like, firing off a joke. It's like, it almost became like a Family Guy level of, like, audience being aware of this kind of movie thing. It's just
well, yeah, and then some of the jokes just weren't funny, and they kept going back to the well on them. Like they have, you know, the Black Tom character, like we were talking about there in prison. One of the things they do when they meet in prison is there's a character called Black Tom. He's a white guy, right? And so Ryan Reynolds makes a few, Black Tom, white guy, you're not a black guy type jokes. Well, then he gets killed, and then he tells Cable he's a racist because Cable kills him because he killed Black Tom. And then throughout the rest of the movie, he tells everyone that Cable's kind of a racist. And it's just, it's not, I mean, it's not like over the top or anything. It's not like irritating. It's just not that funny. And they just keep going back to it. And it's just like, this isn't funny. Why you keep beating this dead horse?
And then, like, there's the scene where he feels like he's actually going to die. And it's we saw this in Shrek, like Shrek 2 Shrek 3. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah.
Where the king refused to die thing. It's like Deadpool just continues to not die. It's like, I've seen that joke in like 17 other comedy movies. It's like,
and they keep cutting to all the characters, and the characters are almost like mimicking the audience, that we're all just like, fuck, just die. I don't care.
Just die already.
When he keeps coming back, he's not really saying anything funny. It's just obnoxious, and you're just like, ugh. And I love Ryan Reynolds, and I love when he spitballs. The guy is really funny. But I just almost feel like he was given too much reign to just say whatever the fuck he wants to in this. And sometimes it just, maybe this isn't editing. Maybe we'll see a different cut with deleted scenes that we see a lot more funny. I mean, we've already seen in the trailers, you've seen a whole bunch of different versions of the same scenes. So they shot a lot of them. But it just, there was moments like that this movie just drug on, where the humor wasn't hitting and the story wasn't strong enough to propel it. And just tired tropes like Vanessa dying, like him wanting to just off himself, nothing to live for, the fake out death scene, that I need to find a purpose, and that kind of leads me to prison when he goes with this kid. The prison scene, they try and develop this bond with him and this boy to an extent, between him saving him, and I don't remember the kid's name because the kid is really irrelevant for me in this entire movie.
Russell, I think is what it was.
He was funny at times, but I didn't really enjoy him as a character, and honestly, as a plot device, I thought he was kind of a poor plot device.
Oh, it's Fire Fist is his mutant name.
Yeah, Fire Fist. I mean, he's a kid who's been abused, who, like we talked about tired tropes. We kind of mentioned that earlier with Vanessa dying, and that's what, moves Wade down his story, down his path in this movie. Then the kid who nobody's loved, who's been abused, who's going to turn evil. I've got to protect this kid. Not because I really want to help him, but because it's the only way I can see Vanessa in the afterlife. He's this vision of, I've got to do something, I got to be a hero, right? Is this hero's journey. But never really do they make you really even like this kid. So like that's why at the end when he does save him, you're not really emotionally invested in his sacrifice of dying to save this kid, because you never really liked the kid in the first place. You never really bought that Wade Wilson cared about him in any fashion at all, other than he wants to see Vanessa. And since that's kind of a source point anyway, because we all liked Vanessa and we loved the story from the first movie, it just makes a story that you just aren't invested in.
Well, and for me, it's the comic Deadpool, the character that we get, Wade Wilson in the comics. He's not a good guy.
No, he's not.
And in the movies, they're trying to portray him more and more as a likable person. Like, yeah, he's likable because he's zany and he does stupid shit and he goes about things in odd ways. But at the same time, you're not supposed to be like, oh, I love that Wade Wilson. He's such a charming fellow that loves these kids and loves the X-Men and stuff like that. It's like, he's not supposed to be just a scampy kind of guy. He's supposed to be a real, like, irredeemable shitbag of a person. He's done horrible fucking things.
And that's what made the first one good. I mean, yeah, okay, in the first one, he did a few nice things, so you didn't think he was a complete and utter just, terrible person, right?
Yeah, he didn't kill Hydra Bob. That was nice.
Yeah. Dude, I wanted Hydra Bob to make an appearance in this movie, but, whatever. That's a small
that
small
casserole?
That was good before he knocks him out. But, the whole first movie was driven just by, he wanted his woman back, right? He wanted to go talk to her. He wanted to be with her again. And this movie, that simple premise really worked well for the first one. This one gave us way too much, and then they introduced Cable, and, let's talk about Cable. So, no. Cable is one of my favorite characters in the X-Men universe. He's got this crazy, intricate story that I knew they were never going to fully bring into Deadpool, into a movie or Deadpool.
Well, yeah, I mean, because we could spend an hour just talking about what his character is and where he came from, and we're talking like Mr. Sinister level of things, where he took Scott Summers' blood and made a clone, and it was also from, what was it, a Jean Grey clone or something
just on the surface, he's the son of Jean Grey's clone and Cyclops, who caught a virus that is a techno-organic virus, that the only way to save him was to ship him thousands of years into the future, where he became basically John Connor in a fight against Apocalypse, and he can travel through time, and he's the most powerful mutant in the universe, except for he uses most of his power to keep his virus at bay, but his virus also gives him powers, and so that's just the surface. There's a lot more to it.
Yeah, and the techno-organic virus came from Apocalypse, wasn't it?
Yeah, it came from Apocalypse because he was destined to kill him, but Sinister wanted him because they created this perfect being. There's a lot of history to this character, and I knew they weren't going to touch on all of it. But the cool thing, one of my favorite things about the original Deadpool is that we've all wanted X-Men that were fucking X-Men, right? That you lifted right out of the comic books. And we got that in the first one. We got Colossus. We got X-Men uniforms that looked exactly like what we wanted. We got the Blackbird. We got everything that you literally looked like you took Deadpool out of the comics and put it into a movie, right? So if anybody was going to do that treatment with Cable, I figured the closest we were going to get was this movie, and instead they gave us a fucking Fox X-Men version of Cable. He's from the future. His family died, and now he's got to save
guns.
He's got to stop the guy who did it. You don't even know if he's a mutant at any point because he doesn't exhibit any powers. Almost everything he does, you could pretty much chalk up to his robot arm.
And technology.
That's all it is. And it's just... They give us zero backstory on him. He barely talks about anything in the movie. Now, that being said, I really did enjoy Josh Brolin's take on Cable, even though he was a much smaller man than Cable is. I think Cable's like 6'8" in the comics and like 500 pounds. I can forgive that. That was fine. I thought Brolin did a really good job.
Because nobody can live up to Liefeld standards when it comes to, anatomy.
Jesus. I did enjoy the Liefeld joke about the small feet.
Yeah, an artist that can't draw feet.
Yeah, I mean, you seem like an artist. You seem like you're what do you say? You seem like you're. Oh God, I lost it. You seem like you're inspired by somebody who can't draw feet. I think is what he said. A '90s artist who can't draw feet. I mean, Liefeld was classic for giving us these monstrosity of characters, huge, giant chest, little teeny legs, 7,000 pockets. And like feet that are this big. But it's just, I don't know. I was really disappointed with Cable. And honestly, at the end of what was his purpose for even being in this movie, honestly?
He was, what they did, and what pisses me off is that Cable was a Terminator.
Yeah.
Is all he was. He was the Terminator, but he had a purpose behind it. That's all it was. I mean, the time slipping, the taking of people's clothing, the taking of their guns and making them better. Yeah. And then, you're relentlessly tracking down somebody and not being able to stop them. It's like, Jesus Christ, you just might as well have made this guy a T-800,
Well, and then the quick turn where they're like, all right, let's all work together. And then all of a sudden at the very end, and that's the other problem that I have is, they very quickly establish a relationship between all of them, and at no point does Deadpool really show that he's worth saving. But yet, Cable's gonna sacrifice his one chance to be with his family to save Deadpool, a guy who wanted to die. Lazy writing. This movie was just plagued by bad, lazy writing. And the worst part is they make multiple jokes about lazy writing. You can only make jokes about lazy writing if you do it ironically. You can't actually have lazy writing.
Yeah, you can't be guilty of it and then joke about it. Because it just makes you look like an asshole more than anything.
Yeah, but you know what? We got about 10 minutes left of this thing. I don't want to shit all over this movie because there was a lot of good stuff, and I don't think anybody tuned into this expecting us, two mega geeks, to just talk shit about this movie. So let's talk about all the great stuff that was in this movie. Unless you have something else you want to discuss.
No, I was going to say we had to put it out there that. We love this movie. I'm going to go see it again because it's fun to watch, but it's not this rosy red thing. I mean, even the first Deadpool movie. I like the first Deadpool movie. I have a problem with it because it's 80% backstory. And so you get the, like, I get, when I'm watching it again from my digital collection that I have. Yeah. When I'm watching it on digital, I skip a lot of the backstory section of it, like, because I'm just like, I don't care, up until the point he gets his mutant powers. I'm like, okay, now I'll watch the movie again. It's just, and that cuts out like a good 30 minutes of the movie, you know, and that's not bad, but at the same time, it's like, don't have rose-tinted glasses about everything you see. Good movie. I'm going to watch it again. I'm going to watch it probably a couple more times, but the problem, it does have its problems. And just like all the a lot of the MCU movies have their problems. It's not something that we can ubiquitously just say every movie is great and wonderful. It's like, I came out of it enjoying it, and I'm like, that was fun. I had a good time with that movie. But my brain sometimes just won't stop, and I'm starting to think back on things, and I'm like, well, that
Avengers?
was fucking lazy.
Oh, dude, Avengers. I loved Avengers, but if you scratch the surface of that movie, you're going to find a lot of rotten
it's like points. I was talking with you about A Quiet Place on our chats and stuff, and I'm like, it's a decent movie, a decent, alien movie kind of thing going on, but at the same time, it's like, if you start poking at it just a little bit, it just falls apart.
I guess that was kind of my problem with Deadpool is that, I don't mind scratching at it later, if I enjoyed it, if I left the theater going, wow, that was a really fun movie, and I have to think about the things that didn't work in it, versus I'm literally watching the movie and I'm seeing all the things that aren't working with it while I'm watching the movie, that's where I have a problem with it, right? It's like, you guys could do better. I had higher expectations for this. You got a bigger budget. You didn't waste it, but you kind of wasted it at the same time, right?
Well, okay, let me put it this way. This movie absolutely fucking redeemed itself with the mid-credits roller that we had, the stinger in the middle. So
that is the best mid-credit stinger I think I've ever seen, to be honest with you. Okay, so we're going to talk about the good stuff. We're done shitting on the bad stuff, unless you got anything else you want to say. I will say the last thing is, if you are watching this and you're like, I didn't understand half the movie, that's not just you. This movie was written for fans of comic books. Yeah. I took my wife and she watched the first Deadpool and she was lost through half of this movie. There are so many deep cuts in this movie that if you're one of the people who are casually like stuff and you were like, I don't know why everybody was laughing, I'm sorry. We unfortunately don't have enough time tonight to go over every single thing that you probably missed. There's
like
a lot
the
of
X-Force.
But this is definitely not. If you're like, ooh, should I take my significant other and they've never seen a comic book movie? Maybe not this one. Maybe something else.
No, because my wife enjoyed the first one and she walked out of this one going, I didn't like that one so much. That wasn't that much fun to me.
That was my wife. I mean, she would laugh and then she wouldn't laugh, and then after the theater, we get out of the theater, she's like, I felt like I should be laughing because you kept laughing, but I didn't know why it was funny. And I'm like, there was a lot of real. I mean, there was other nerds that I went with that watched this that didn't get some of the deep cuts. I mean, there's a lot of stuff here. So I just wanted to say that if you're watching this trying to find some reason, this movie was written for us. This is for nerds. This is a super.
This was made
movie.
For the generation between millennial and the Gen X, between Gen X millennial, the lost generation, or whatever the fuck they're calling it nowadays, where we grew up with the analog, I think
they call us, or some shit,
whatever it is, where we grew up with the analog childhood but had internet in our teenage years.
We know how to use a typewriter, but we like computers.
Yeah, exactly. And so there was a lot of jokes that were directed like towards that generation altogether. Like there was a couple of Goonies jokes that we had in there. I mean, but there was like song references in there, like you were saying when you had the Dolly Parton song playing, working 9 to 5. Most people in the generation past ours probably never even watched that movie.
Well, there's probably people who are wondering why Deadpool's holding up his phone that looks like a boombox.
Yeah, hold the John Hughes "Say Anything" boombox when he's trying to get Colossus to come out.
Yeah. All right. So from now on, nothing but good things about this movie.
Right.
First, I want to say, fucking Domino, amazing standout character.
More of her.
I want Zazie Beetz to have her own movie.
Yeah.
She is amazing as Domino.
Let's see. Good thing. The X-Men cameo when he's ranting and raving inside the fucking Charles Xavier's mansion. He's like, how come we can't get at least one more? How come we can't get like a Beast or that guy that shoots shit out of his eyeballs? And it's like,
I like how they kind of answer why no one's ever there, because he's in Professor X's wheelchair and he's wheeling around. And he's like, nobody is ever here. What is the deal? And they're all like quietly closing the door, like shh.
It pans over, and just over his shoulder, you have the young X-Men from like the Days of Future Past, the X-Men that are there. You
have McAvoy.
First class, shutting the door.
Apparently, they wanted to get Stewart, but they couldn't get Stewart, so they ended up just getting all the first class one, or the whole new generation of X-Men.
Yeah, so they had Quicksilver, Cyclops, and Beast, I think, were in there.
Quicksilver, Cyclops, Beast, Storm, and there was one other one in there. Let's see.
Was it the younger McAvoy? Was McAvoy in there?
Yeah,
I don't
McAvoy.
Remember.
So it X, Cyclops, Storm, Beast, and Nightcrawler.
But they were just like, shh.
Yeah, they're all closing the door. So it kind of leads you to believe that every time Deadpool shows up, everybody just hides because everybody hates him so much.
Like, oh fuck, it's Deadpool! Get out of here.
Which is kind of hilarious. Juggernaut. We finally got Juggernaut, who looked like Juggernaut and acted like Juggernaut,
and confirmed that he is the brother of Professor X. Well, they said my brother's always trying to read my mind, but anybody that knows the comics as we do, we're like, oh, it's what's his name? Not Marco. It's Charles' brother.
Well, and that's that was the whole. What do you say? I have to wear this. He's like, somebody was right. You got to wear that helmet because your brother reads your mind. And he goes, yeah, he's kind of a dick, but he's in a wheelchair, so it all works out. I'm like, oh my god. The only problem with, and I don't want to, we said only good things, but if you're gonna give us Juggernaut, can you give us his powers? His whole powers is once he starts moving is unstoppable. He's the unstoppable Juggernaut. At no point did he really start running and like knock somebody out. He just turned into a big giant fist fight. But that was one of the high points. Watching Colossus and Juggernaut beat the ever-loving shit out of each other was great.
So I was reading just a second here. The T.J. Miller thing, when he was replaced from the movie, like taken out of the movie, there was a headline that states that Christopher Plummer respectfully turned down the Deadpool 2 role extended to him because the Kevin Spacey had some Me Too moment shit that was happening to him. And he got replaced by Christopher Plummer in a movie that was supposed to be coming out. And like every scene that Kevin Spacey was in, they just replaced him. So they were joking. That's a fucking deep dive. I didn't even notice that one earlier. But
that is funny. Good
but
Lord.
Juggernaut was a great reveal, and you didn't know who the big bad was going to be when they were talking about it in the icebox. But when they finally reveal him, I'm like, yeah, we're going to get some Juggernaut powers, and
we
they
got
don't.
Juggernaut, but no Juggernaut powers. So this, like I said, this kind of goes into the whole like Fox X-Men universe where you bring in these people but don't really give us quite what we're asking for in these movies. But and it it's something that was so simple that they could have easily done, but whatever. At least we've gotten to a point now where it shows like, hey, listen, some of these characters from the X-Men, they're ridiculous, right? They are just literally ridiculous. There is no way that you can put an actor in a suit to make it look right. Sometimes you just have to CGI him. Colossus.
Yeah, Vinnie Jones didn't look right.
Yeah, there was another missed opportunity. How come we didn't get I'm the Juggernaut, bitch, at least once? I would have loved that. That was the best part of that movie. Who are you? I'm the Juggernaut, bitch.
Juggernaut, bitch. Yeah.
But
when Juggernaut comes out and Deadpool's nerding out over the fact that Juggernaut's there, I'm gonna rip you in half now.
And then he literally rips him in half. All right, which leads
to the best scene in the whole fucking movie.
The best scene in the whole goddamn movie. Baby legs, Deadpool baby legs, Basic Instinct moment where you see baby balls.
Yeah, you see dick for like one brief second, and it's just like it's so
Campbell
uncomfortable.
Goes, did I just see baby dick? And then T.J. Miller goes, it's his basic instinct.
Because he's doing the whole leg crossing thing. The switching the legs over, the Sharon Stone. It's not made for people past our generation because nobody
loved how they're all like, we're gonna get this motherfucker with Cable, and they're like, he's right behind us, isn't he? And he was right behind him. That whole shit was funny. That whole scene was great. He
gets up on the baby legs and starts walking towards him, ambling like a little child.
But he's like, it's like his inspirational moment of like, I can do this, and they're like, you can do it. You're gonna do it. And I kind of wish they would have done that. What's that? The Chariots of Fire. I wish they would have played Chariots of Fire in the background while he did that. That would have been amazing.
But what was I going to say? What do they call it when you're just wearing a T-shirt and like your shirt? What is it? Shirt dick in it, or what is? What do they call it?
Yeah, he was shirt dicking it.
You're not wearing anything below the waist, but you're still wearing a shirt on top. And the shirt that he was wearing was fucking Chunks from the Goonies.
Yeah. And I totally missed that. He was wearing the Chunks from the Goonies shirt. I like how the blind lady, she was in it again. She's fucking great. When he sneaks into her like right after Vanessa dies and he's trying to kill himself, and he sneaks into her house and scares the shit out of her, and he steals all the cocaine. He sticks it in his mask and just fucking hits it. And,
I was going to go to that
right
one.
There on the floor.
And but the funniest thing about that whole scene is that underneath like the pounds of cocaine that he has there,
cure for blindness,
it says the fucking cure for blindness, and it looks like another bag of cocaine.
But so back to the scene with the baby legs, when he's like, can you grab my baby hand? She's like, okay, fine. And she puts her hand down and she goes, oh, what is that? He goes, it's what you thought it was. And she's like, oh, what is wrong with you? He's like, so much, I don't know what to tell you.
Now the commercial tends to make you think that you're gonna get.
Oh, we're gonna talk X-Force.
Yeah, we're gonna go X-Force because when I first saw that they had one of my favorite mutants in this, and I was like, oh my god, they're putting Shatterstar into this. Holy shit, I can't believe it.
He's even from Planet Mojo.
They glossed right the fuck over that. But there's the scene when they're in the helicopter and they're gonna jump to go break into the convoy to break free the kid. Which, why not just attack them when they get to their destination? I don't fucking... Anyway,
bad writing.
They're talking about how bad the turbulence is on this helicopter that they're going to jump out of. Like, it's a joke they go to like 4 or 5 times, and then they jump out of the helicopter, and they're like, oh, wow, it really is pretty choppy winds up here. So X-Force jumps off, and...
Well, mind you, before X says what he's going to say, we had not 1, not 2, but 3 trailers seeing multiple members of X-Force fighting epic battle scenes. All right?
Yeah, we had Terry Crews that was going to make... It was supposed to be a really cool character. We had Shatterstar. We had, what's his name? Bill Skarsgård that played Pennywise from It. I can't remember what his character's name in this one was, but he spit the acid stuff out.
And we're all expecting this, and instead, what did we get?
We get each one of them ultimately getting fucking killed by this parachuting. In terrible ways. You know, Terry Crews goes head first into a oncoming bus.
Header into a bus window. Shatterstar goes right into a helicopter blade.
And sprays green blood everywhere. It's like, this movie's glossing over the fact that there's an alien here. Like,
how about the normie? How about Peter lands perfectly and goes to save the Venom guy who lands in a wood chipper named Geppetto. Proceeds
to barf and then melt half of Peter.
And the only person who perfectly lands into an inflatable cow is Domino, who is clearly, like I said earlier, the standout character. I did not know how they were going to do her power of luck in a movie. And even Ryan in Deadpool kind of jokes of like, you have the worst cinematic power. They're never going to be able to show this in a movie. And it's done masterfully. Everything she does just works in her favor. You got shit blowing up and like flying right over her, landing on bad guys as she walks unscathed.
Completely Rube Goldberging every scene that she's in, where like,
so great. Well, and then, you know, not to get back on the shit that bothered me, but then she has this callback where she goes to the same abusive Essex school, by the way. Anybody who knows who Essex is, that's Mr. Sinister. I'm thinking there's going to be some big tie-in to Mr. Sinister. You got Cable, Domino. Nope, nothing.
And there was a sign inside the Essex school where it says M-Day is near. And it's like, are you really going to try to tease us that there's going to be like a House of M?
Don't give us better movies than what we're getting. That's all I'm asking. Don't tease us about something better than what I'm seeing. But Domino's like... Okay.
I'm wondering if maybe, this is just pure speculation, that they're putting that in there because they know the whole Fox-Disney merger is going to happen.
Yeah.
And the only way that they're going to be able to bring the X-Men back into the Marvel Cinematic Universe is through some reality twisting, like through Scarlet Witch or something. Unfortunately, Scarlet Witch that we have in the MCU right now is nerfed like a motherfucker, too. She doesn't really use hardly any of her powers.
Well, and her powers have never been about reality, which kind of blows, because that's really her big... she alters reality. That's her power.
Yeah.
Not to shoot, like, red blasts at people, but to literally alter the fabric of reality. But then she mentions that she went to the school, and you're like, oh, there's going to be some bigger tie-in. No, just another end that they don't really wrap up in this.
Here's a thread. Let's pull on it a little bit. Oh, wait, that's all it was? It was a little hair. You know, it wasn't really anything deep. She's like, yeah, it sucked growing up there. I'm like, well, fuck. Okay, thanks for that, writer.
Yeah,
you could have done a little
Cable,
bit more with it.
Lame backstory. Domino, zero backstory. X-Force, they all died, so we didn't know their backstory. Which, honestly, I didn't mind. The only thing that bothered me about X-Force dying is that could have actually been time they could have used to maybe give us... If you want to give us this epic, like, X-Men kind of movie that they were trying to give us a little bit, you could have given us more about Cable, or you could have given us a little bit more on Dom. I mean, I didn't feel like we needed more about Domino, but I would have really liked to see a little more motivation for Cable other than family that never existed in the comic died, except for the fact that they name drop Hope, which is another, like, massive... X-Men event. How are you just going to throw out the name Hope out there? Like, that means so much in the X-Men universe. But in this, it's just a dead kid.
What is it? She was the first mutant born after, like, everybody was wiped out, I think. Yeah.
And she may or may not have been the reincarnation of Jean Grey, which, spoiler alert, she is the reincarnation of Jean Grey. Like I said, it's just a huge... I mean, I get, like, you can't introduce some of this because, oh, yeah, by the way, your daughter is actually a reincarnation of your cloned mother. There's a weird...
Yeah, because comic reality doesn't quite work as well in movie form.
But that's the problem. Like, this movie has a lot of really smart writing in it. At times, you could have easily figured out ways to not kill Vanessa if you didn't want her to be in the movie. You could have figured out ways to give us more of Cable other than just be a weird Terminator. You could, there's just, you could have given us more motivation than Wade wants to save a kid who he clearly doesn't want to save until he does want to save him, and then you just don't care by the end of the movie.
Well, I just don't understand how come he just wouldn't off the kid. You know, like he knows that's going to be why does he have such a tie to this kid?
Well, and
I mean, because it's something that Vanessa was saying, your heart's not in the right place or whatever it is.
Because,
and it's like,
well, it's because somebody had to set an offbeat line that kind of matched with what Vanessa said in the afterlife that just, I don't know, it was, but I don't want to talk about bad things. All right, so good things. What else? As we're winding down, I think we're kind of touched most things. We can get in some deep cuts if we want to in a second, but let's talk about that mid-credit scene. So every problem that we've had with this movie, the biggest, greatest, bestest credit scene I've ever seen also completely undid this movie and made it completely irrelevant, which I don't know if that's the most Deadpool thing ever or if that's just the writers responding to some of that early criticism that we read about a few months ago. Because
maybe they send out a screening and people are like, oh, well, with this problem, we have this problem. They're like, oh, well, we'll just go back and make this little mid-credit stinger where we're going to address all this shit.
Yeah, so if you walked out before the end, shame on you. But if you did, basically the writers decided to just retcon everything, and Deadpool steals Cable's time slider, gets Negasonic Teenage Warhead to fix it, and Yukio, who...
Hi, Yukio!
Hi, Yukio!
Hi, Wade!
Who is adorable, who's adorbs in this, by the way. Shout out to the first LGBT couple in X-Men, by the way. That was pretty cool. They did it right. I
thought it was funny, like how what is it? The fire kid was like, "Shut up, Justin Bieber," talking about Negasonic.
That was funny. I wanted more of her. I love her character. I would love to see her like completely, like as a character in a movie where she's the main character. Fun fact for you: I don't know if you know this, but Yu-Gi-Oh is in fact the same character that Wolverine teamed up with in Wolverine 2 Yu-Gi-Oh with the Ninja Sword. That has in fact been confirmed as the same character.
You know, I never caught the X-Men Origins, the second Wolverine movie or whatever the fuck it was called. No, I watched the original, which we're talking about in the mid-credit stinger here. Yeah. But I never caught the second one where it was like Japan and he got his powers taken away.
If you're going to watch it, it's actually, the Wolverine's actually a pretty good movie. It falls apart a little bit in the third act like most X-Men movies do. But I
well, it should be right up my alley because it has Silver Samurai in it. So, I mean...
Yeah, it's in typical Fox fashion, you're going to be a little disappointed with Silver Samurai.
Well, yeah, because I bet you it's not Lady Deathstroke's brother. You know?
No, it's not.
Fuck you, Fox.
It's a giant adamantium robot. I'm not even joking.
Fuck on, man.
That being said, the movie's actually pretty good, and if you're going to watch it, watch the unrated version.
Well, I mean, yeah, because there hasn't been a portrayal of Logan that I haven't liked as long as it's done by the same guy.
Well, the theatrical cut, there's Logan versus the Ninjas that they actually completely cut the entire scene. In the unrated version, they add about 10 minutes of Logan versus Ninjas that ends with Yu-Gi-Oh! Taking a wood chipper and cutting down ninjas. It's great. I would highly recommend watching it. I think you'd really enjoy it. But we were talking about Deadpool too. Yeah. So anyway, Yu-Gi-Oh! So anyway, mid-credit scene. So Vanessa dies. They fix his time machine and they give it to Deadpool and they go, I don't know if that was such a good idea. No.
And as we're shown, it was not a good idea.
So the first thing he does is go back and save Vanessa, which, hey, you knew that was coming. So he completely undid the whole
plot of the movie.
Which
he saves Vanessa.
I'm not sad because I really like that character and I really like the actress who plays her. I think she's an integral part of Deadpool and I think killing her would be a mistake. Plus, if you're familiar with the comic book, she actually turns into, I forget her name is, but she's like a shapeshifter. She eventually turns into a shapeshifting good guy / bad guy, which would be cool if they did that in a future movie. Maybe when she comes back from the dead, now she has powers, who knows. But he doesn't stop there. Then he goes and saves, Peter from the X-Force, and we're guessing he saves the rest of the X-Force as well.
Maybe not Shatterstar. He had no love lost for that guy.
True. We did not talk about the Vanisher. We'll talk about the Vanisher in a second.
One of the best cameos in the movie.
Yeah, there's a handful of them, so we'll talk about them. So then what does he do next? Then he goes, and then he kills the original Deadpool from Wolverine Origins. So Hugh Jackman did in fact get in this movie.
Yeah, Hugh Jackman walks up, and it's the end scene where Deadpool reveals himself, the mouth sewn shut guy that was there, and he's like, Wade, is that you?
Wolverine pops his claws.
And then Deadpool Wade just walks up to him and blasts him right in the fucking head. And he's like, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but this has kind of been grating on me. And he starts shooting the corpse.
Just fixing the timeline. We're good here. And then Wolverine kind of looks all confused, and he just murking him.
Just disappeared. Like, wait, that means he killed himself in the... Wait, huh? What the fuck, guys?
Like I said, we talked about possibly, like, when Disney buys, when the merger's done, what are they going to do with Deadpool? I don't know, because they've convoluted this in a way that even X-Men hasn't managed to do now. Because Deadpool is officially part of the entire Fox universe now, like every movie.
And the writers have said that it is canon.
Yeah,
what he has
canon.
done in Deadpool is canon. So,
yeah. So Vanessa is in fact alive. He does in fact kill, save X-Force. Well, at least Peter from X-Force. Does kill himself in Wolverine Origins.
Yeah.
And then for the final scene, we get a picture of Ryan Reynolds reading the script for Green Lantern, going, "This is it. You've arrived."
The big leagues.
The big leagues. And then gets his head proceedingly blown off by Deadpool.
Which was great.
Blood splatter all over the script.
My wife was just scratching her head. She's like, I don't get it. I'm like, that movie flopped so goddamn hard. You have no idea.
And that's what's so great about this movie. Like, the ending, I'm feeling disappointed after I finished the movie. I enjoyed it, but I'm like, eh. But then you watch the mid-credit and you walk out with just this giant smile on your face going, yeah, that was good. So, kudos to them for that. I mean, I don't know, but yeah, so cameos real quick. There was a couple you guys might have missed, maybe not. We had heard there was an A-list actor who cameoed in this, and he in fact was the Vanisher, who flung into some power cables.
Power lines when he was parachuting in. He was the X-Force member that landed on the power lines, and he's like, maybe he'll be okay. Nope. He starts getting electrocuted,
and he lit on
you
fire.
Get two frames of fucking Brad Pitt's face that you get to see,
looking all shocked.
Like,
that was so great. And then a couple cameos you guys might not have caught. Early on, Cable, when he first came to the past, he jacked a truck from two hillbillies. Well, they were both in makeup and prosthetics. So if you recognize the voice but couldn't place the faces, well, you weren't alone. One of them was Alan Tudyk. Better known from Firefly and, I don't know, Star Wars, Rogue One.
The Duke of Weselton from Frozen.
From Frozen. He was also
King Candy from
Transformers.
Wreck-It Ralph, he was King Candy. I mean, he was K2SO. I think you already said that. But he is a man. He is like the Tex Avery of our generation. So. And
then the other person with him was none other than, who apparently makes cameos in every comic book movie now, Matt Damon. Played Hillbilly number 2.
Matt Damon,
who, coming off his Academy Award winning, at least in my opinion, turn as Loki in Thor Ragnarok, is really doing the comic book circuit. So that was a couple cameos. That was a lot of fun in this. But, overall, I really enjoyed this movie for the most part. Everything aside, it was pretty funny. A lot of the jokes did not land as well as they did in the first one. Like we talked about, there was a lot of just jokes that they kept coming back to, like the dubstep.
One dubstep joke was fine. Like, is dubstep still there in the future? It's like, that's funny. That's funny. Yeah. Not that funny.
Not to do it a second time.
You need to come back to it later, where you're like, I fucking love dubstep. No, we don't. No, you didn't
Cable,
need to go back to that.
You do not like dubstep. We know you don't like dubstep.
Well, he's sitting there before he goes into like any mission, listening to shit like Belinda Carlisle, or listening to Cher, or as we had in the first movie, he was listening to Salt and Peppa. It's like,
that was great.
That's your vibe. Let it be that shit, the stuff that you can't let go of. Like, wham, it's fucking wham.
We had some DMX. I mean, that first soundtrack was amazing, and this soundtrack's great too. Can I mention, shout out by the way, that they were able to snag Gloria or
I know who you're talking about. Celine Dion.
Dion in an original
song. The opening Bond number, the Bond movie opening, where
it's so great. And the soundtrack in here is really good for the most part. I did feel like some of the soundtrack they misused at places. It had some really good songs, but then like at the very end, when they were doing the superhero team up, I don't remember what song they used, but it just didn't fit quite with the scene that they were trying to do. But overall, I thought the soundtrack was great in this one as well. It was a fun movie. It was strangely paced, by the end, I just was ready to go home. But it was funnier than it wasn't. And you know what? It's still great to see characters like Cable and Juggernaut, even if they aren't quite what you want on screen, because X-Men did not have the balls to bring him in. These guys at least did. And Domino was fucking fantastic. So,
yep.
Overall,
I hope they can get TJ Miller to come back in the next one. I know people have problems with him. I mean, he's done some shitty stuff, but hopefully he can atone for it and come back, because he's honestly one of the funniest people in the whole movie. And Weasel is a character you need for Deadpool. You can't have a Deadpool without Blind Owl or Weasel.
Okay,
you have to
shout out Dopinder was great in this.
The Brown Panther.
The Brown Panther. How about what he called Domino? Black Widow. There was some good inside Marvel jokes in this one.
Oh yeah, like when is America going to be tired of the metal arms?
The metal arm, yeah. Called him Thanos. Go, calm down, Thanos. There should have been more Thanos jokes. I think they were afraid to really pull the trigger on those, but whatever. But overall, like I said, it was a good movie. I enjoyed myself a lot. It was a little bit of a letdown. I don't think it's as good as the first one. A little schizophrenic at times. Doesn't quite know what movie it wants to be, but go see it. It's good. Well,
I think the reasoning that you can say that the first movie was better is because you had the villains in that were nobodies. Like you had Ajax and you had Angel, and it's just you didn't really need any of them. They were just people to play Deadpool off of. In this one, you actually had to have like a big villain. You had to have Cable come into it, because they said, "Oh yeah, we're going to bring in Cable." And I remember seeing that when he was doing the Ferris Bueller ending. I'm like, "Holy shit, they're going to bring Cable into it? How are they going to do that?" And
maybe you nailed it. Maybe that was part of the problem with the movie, is that just narratively speaking, there was no real villain in this.
Yeah, I mean, even Juggernaut really wasn't much of a villain. I mean, you got your CGI fight between Colossus and him. That was great.
We went 50 minutes without talking about Juggernaut got electrocuted up the ass.
And he climbs out at the end, which was great, because I'm like, yeah, you can't stop the Juggernaut,
When I thought they killed him, I was like, come on, really? But that was funny. That was pretty good.
Like, yeah, that's not going to kill the Juggernaut.
So, yeah, and I think maybe you're right. This movie really needed a strong villain, and they tried to make Cable that, and he just wasn't, and I think they knew it. And so I think narratively speaking, there just wasn't. And then the boy kind of became the villain, but not really. It just, I don't think there was a strong narrative in this movie. It wasn't strong enough to carry what you really wanted it to.
Well, even Ray Donovan's brother that played the guy that ran the Essex home here, where I was just I kept trying to place, where the fuck have I seen this guy before? And I figured out Ray Donovan. He's the guy that has the Parkinson's. And
I love that Dopinder ran him over and murdered him, but Deadpool would have smoked that dude in 2 seconds, right?
Yeah, he wouldn't have turned a new leaf and have been like, okay, yeah, we don't need to kill him. We don't need to do that. Deadpool should have said, you don't need to kill him. Pow, pow, pow.
Yeah, exactly. That's my job. That's what he does. So I just, like we talked about, this movie is a little schizophrenic, kind of all over the place, a little out of character. But overall, I don't know. I think we both agree. It was a pretty fun movie. Good
movie. Just quit trying to turn a guy that's got wishy-washy gray tendencies of being, hero and villain at the same time. I mean, he literally will kill anybody for money. He's a mercenary.
He's a mercenary.
Don't make him like this super altruistic hero. It's never going to work. You're going to have cognitive dissonance between people that really love this guy. It's just
so for Deadpool 3, all you writers need to do is watch The Punisher on Netflix and figure out a way to make that funny. Because that is basically what he does. He just murders people. He just doesn't care.
I want them to do Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe.
That would be great.
Because the ultimate villain is going to be him fighting himself.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens next. The next movie's slated, and I think they're already starting production on this, is X-Force. They're trying to kind of pump it out before the merger's done.
The merger,
so,
yeah.
Before Disney kills it, which we're going to get at least one rated R X-Force movie. I think we see the majority of the lineup. I'm sure we'll get a few people that we don't know about, but I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Come on, make the villain MODOK. Give me a MODOK movie.
Oh, that'd be great. Make MODOK.
Peter Dinklage's MODOK. Come on.
Dude, give us some crazy, go Guardians of the Galaxy on this. Just go as crazy as you want, and people will just buy in. Just make it a good movie. Don't try and fit a round peg into a square hole. Just do it.
Let's say fuck the Kree. Let's go past the Kree. Let's go to like the Shi'ar Empire. Let's go to that.
God. That would be great. Just give us something crazy.
They won't do that.
No,
Pull a Thor Ragnarok and have Deadpool get pulled onto a planet where he's their god figure kind of thing, or like their hero.
Yeah, and once he gets into Disney, I would love to see things like that happen. I think Disney will keep this. They're not gonna kill this. I think they're gonna at least keep it its own thing. But I think I would love to see him like show up and like have to go to Asgard and be like, I swear to God, it was here. What happened? Those are the things you can do with Deadpool, and it's just great. But anyway, got anything else you want to add?
I would love to see Deadpool pull the. There was an issue, I can't remember which one it was. It was early on in Deadpool's life where he went back in time to like the 1960s and he assumed the role of Peter Parker for like. I
do not think I've read that.
Oh man, that's a classic. You'd have to search that one out where he has to go back. He goes back in time because Weasel made a fucking time travel device, and him and Blind Al go to the past and accidentally fall on Aunt May. Oh god, it's classic. It doesn't make sense in a movie. It wouldn't make sense in a movie because it's 1960s fucking comic books, golden age stuff where nothing. You could get your heroes to be like, I better go see what those ruffians are doing, kind of.
Can we get a movie, a team up movie where Deadpool has to help Spider-Man who's been turned into Spider-Ham and Thor who's been turned into the Frog, and and he has to save him. How great would that be?
I don't know if we're ever going to get the expanded Deadpool universe,
Be great.
Girl Deadpool, or whatever the fuck they called her. What, Gwenpool?
Gwenpool.
Was it?
Yeah. Gwenpool. All right. Well, unless you got something
movie.
else.
I mean, out of 4, if you had to give it a rating of stars, this would get a solid 3 for me. It's not a 4 like Infinity War was, but a good solid 3.
I'd give it a 3 or, like a 7.5 out of 10. It's a solid movie. It's a fun movie for the most part that you're going to enjoy, and you'll have a good time. Like I said, it drags a little bit at times, but whatever.
And the only reason we're being critical of it at all is because we love it, Yeah. As the people that are the core audience for this kind of movie, we see that there are issues where we take umbrage with it. But for everybody else out there, if they don't get the reference, they don't really fucking care. But if you see if people didn't grow up reading these comics, if they didn't grow up watching the shitty 90s X-Men cartoon, it's like a lot of this stuff is just going to just go off their back like water off a duck's back. It's not going to be anything they're going to be caught up on. But for some of us, we're like, hold on, wait a minute.
Yeah. Well, and to be honest, Marvel has raised the bar, right? Their movies aren't always perfect, but narratively speaking, they're great, they're fun, and even the worst ones, like the Doctor Stranges and the Iron Man 3s, you still can have a good time and enjoy the movie, right? So that is the level that we expect. Not perfect, but and that's.
And if you're comparing let's talk about Fox. If you're talking about Fox movies, out of all of the X-branded, Fox stuff, this is number 2 on my list. This is honestly number 2 on the top. Yeah, and I liked First Class, and I liked all these movies, but so far, Deadpool and Deadpool 2.
Yeah, they're still the best X-Men movies you're going to get.
Yeah. And boy, I just can't wait for Dark Phoenix. Boy, let me tell you, man.
We don't have enough time in the show for that. We'll save that for another episode.
Yeah, we'll review that one in the future.
Hey, spoiler alert, this is what I think about it. God. All right, well, everybody, thanks for joining us. We went a little bit longer than we thought, but there's always things to talk about with and me and Chris can talk for hours.
Yeah, hey, it's not a Geek Dad moment without having us going overtime.
And hours. So anyway, thanks for joining us, guys. Until next time, stay awesome, everybody.
Yeah, talk to you later, folks.
Go see Deadpool 2 in theaters now.